Hi everyone, welcome back to the Bible Project podcast. We've reached Genesis 3 part 16, which is part 35 in our journey through this amazing first book of the Bible. And I've called today's short talk, The Judgment upon Adam and Eve. I'd remind you that the full transcript for all these podcasts is available in the podcast note page on anywhere that you listen to this in the audio version. So, we noted last time that God had condemned Satan and given a prophecy of how his total defeat and destruction will occur. What God does next is speak to the woman. Genesis 3:16 says this, "To the woman he said, I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labour you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." Now today when we think of conception, we think of the moment 9 months prior to the arrival of a child. But at the time this was written to, conception was conceived as the whole 9-month period, right up to and including the arrival of the child. Now the point being made here is God is saying the woman is going to be drawn to her husband, and I guess you can figure out what that's talking about, and the consequences of that physical union is now going to have an end result which will include great joy and great pain. And that pain is going to be experienced through the childbirth process itself. But there's more, because it also says, God says to the woman, your desire is going to be towards your husband. You see, if the only result of the intimacy between a man and a woman would have been an end result of pain, we'd be much less likely to join together. So God at the same time increases the desire for physical intimacy between a man and a woman, whilst at the same time saying it will result in the pain of childbirth, which has led some to say that if men had children there would only be one child per family. I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions on that. Then finally the Lord speaks to man, and we're in Genesis chapter 3, 17 and 18, which says, "To Adam he said, because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree which I commanded you must not eat from, cursed is the ground before you. Through painful toil you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field." In order to appreciate this verse, you need to first look at the immediate context. Satan, represented by a serpent, was cursed. Man himself was not cursed, it was the ground that was cursed. Adam had submitted himself to his wife's will when he should have submitted himself to God. His punishment is that he would experience is being put under submission to the ground. Prior to the fall, the earth had spontaneously yielded fruit and food. We see that in the early verses of Genesis. But now it yields also thorns and thistles. Whereas once the ground cooperated with humankind, now it will resist us. In Romans chapter 8, Paul, in referencing this very passage, says the whole creation is now in futility and groans to be redeemed. The creation begins to experience degradation and decay, just like that rusty old car in the sea I spoke about a few podcasts ago. Before the fall, man had tended the garden, it said. The work was done with relative ease. It was a sort of caring and tending of the garden. But now the man would have to gain his food by painful toil, by the sweat of his brow, it says. And that is the first result of Adam's fall from grace. But there is a second result of that fall. It tells us this, "By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust you will return." So the second consequence, the other consequence, the major consequence of the fall is now death. The wages of sin are indeed seen to be death. We are made from the dust of the ground, we came from the ground, and to the ground we will return. So much for the promise offered by Satan of us actually becoming godlike. Adam and Eve thought they would end up gods, deities, and they ended up dust. Well, that's it for this time. Next time round I shall hopefully sum it up and draw some conclusions of just how profound the fall of humanity has been. I look forward to meeting with you then. Okay everyone, that's it for this time. Now the place to go for all the links to this ministry and other ministries and podcasts that I do is the podcast notes section of this podcast on the Buzzsprout website. There you'll find links to the Facebook page, my YouTube channel, the sister podcast, the Living in Faith Everyday podcast, and also links even to my SoundCloud page where I create the background music and sound design for this podcast. And there's also, even if you're that way inclined, a place where you can support the podcast and the other ministries to the tune of £1 a month, which really helps with the funding and costs of doing this. But other than that, I really trust you've been blessed by our time together, and I hope to see you all here again very soon.